What is up, podheads? Back with another episode of the Podio Slave Podcast. My name is Tony, joined as always by Nate.
Are you NPR Tone?
I am. I'm NPR Tone.
All right. I thought I heard that.
And Anthony.
Hey, how are you? And a little behind the scenes, inside baseball. That took Tony 6 tries to do.
That's the first time that I've restarted in a while, right? Usually I just plow through my mistake, and you've heard those out there. But yeah, this one I had to restart because I fucked it up. I think I said podheads. Maybe you are. I don't know. But yeah, we're back with another nerdery. Here you go.
Who are we to judge?
Yeah, it's legal in Maine. It's legal in a lot of places. So if you want to do it, do it. If you want to do it while you're listening to Podio Slave, by all means, we're in. But tonight, fun one. Talk with Doug Robb of Hoobastank, which is somebody we've been kind of off and on trying to get on the podcast for quite some time. So pretty cool that we were able to do it.
Yeah, Nate, if I told you back in 2020, hey, Doug Robb, this podcast we're forming, Doug Robb's going to come on, would you believe it?
No, not at all. I didn't.
Yeah.
Like we said, we thought we were going to do like album deep dives, which we do a lot of, and just, I don't know, geek stuff out on the industry and whatnot. Interviews didn't seem like it was really a possibility. So yeah, here we are, right? 5 years later. And now it seems possible for sure. But then definitely not.
I love that you said that, which is like, yeah, clearly we didn't think that, but we didn't even know if interviews were on the table, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And no, I think that's a great point. Yeah, I think what was the pitch for us? It was, hey, we love music. We listen to music. We talk about it through text.
Yeah.
Let's record. Yeah, let's record our combos.
Oh yeah,
that was basically
that. Yeah, it was like, why don't we just put it out there? I mean, Nate and I joked about it for years, and then we're going back to origin stories, which I think is like the first or second episode, but we would talk about it for years. And to get to the point where we were able to now have some of these conversations with people who we've been listening to for all of those years, you know, in Hoobastank's case since 2001, right? When the self-titled record dropped, and then they got massive, and then they got even more massive. So pretty cool to be able to ask those questions of someone like Doug Robb, and that was what we were able to do in this conversation. And he's an open book, man. He gave us everything. He gave us all what it was like, you know, on the come up, what happened when they first hit, what happened when they hit mega with The Reason, and all of the stuff in between. So it was pretty badass to be able to get that stuff from him.
Yeah, and I haven't listened to every Doug Robb interview, but I don't know that he gets this in depth in certain pockets outside of this conversation, right? Like you said, you get the origin, you get the come up, you get the we got big, you get the hey, we got even bigger.
Yeah, perspective.
It's a 101 story to begin with, but I think there's some gems that people have never heard in this, so we're excited for you to listen.
Yeah, he's been called my doppelganger by de facto host Rob a few times, which I don't fully agree with, but you know, we have some similarities. But yeah, good guy, really cool to talk to. I think he also brought some memorabilia onto the podcast. We're not the only ones that hold on to literally everything and anything music related, so that's always comforting. But yeah, awesome conversation. We're gonna get into it right now.
All right, we're here with Doug Robb from the legendary Hoobastank. I didn't think I'd ever say those words, but here we are, Doug. Thanks for coming on with us.
I don't think I've ever thought legendary would precede Hoobastank, but cool.
Well, why is that? Why not?
Because I think we are a highly self-aware band.
Right on.
And we've never taken ourselves very seriously. We take our music seriously and nothing else, really, you know?
That's a good way to be, though, right? You're having fun with it. That's the point of it all.
I mean, that was the point of it all when we started. So whenever we've gotten sidetracked and kind of sucked into the other points that come up along the way, we've been able to remind ourselves, or at least I have, like, dude, get to fucking play music for a living. Like, quit being a baby.
I love that. And actually, I think we take a similar approach to this podcast where it's like, we don't take ourselves seriously, but we take the craft seriously. Like whenever we do interviews or deep dive an album, we take it serious and we love what we do at the end of the day. And it sounds like that's still the case with you.
Yeah. I mean, how long you guys been doing this?
5 years.
5 years. Okay. So I've been in this band since basically the end of high school. So
wow,
like 30 years. I think
that's wild.
I think our first show was in June of '95. I mean, quote unquote show. I mean, it counts because we played as Hoobastank in my parents' backyard, so that counts.
Of course
Absolutely,
it does.
And
yeah.
yeah, so after 30 years or 5 years of doing anything, it's never the same. So you have to kind of find, other things that you love about it. And like I said earlier, and things to remind you, why you started doing it.
So that backyard show, like, what kept you coming back? How'd that go down?
I mean, the show itself, I mean, you got to imagine I was probably 18, 19 years old. I was in high school with the guitar player, Dan. And I don't know, we were in separate bands when we first met. I think we met in the auto shop, to be honest with you. And it was just a venue. There was nothing that we live in the suburbs of LA, and there wasn't a lot or places to play. And we just thought it would be a cool idea. We had a lot of friends that were in bands, and one of these days, we're probably gonna release. We have like old VHS footage of the show,
Wow.
and we wanted it to be like a proper show. I remember, warning all the neighbors that we're gonna have this party, and if
Yeah.
there's any problems, don't call the cops, call us. We'll tone it down, and it'll be done by whatever time. We hired security to work at the gate, the backyard gate,
Nice.
Nice.
and then I think the night before, we went with Dan's dad to the high school, and underneath the football bleachers, there were the graduation stages, which were basically like ping pong tables, and we borrowed two of them.
Allegedly.
We're wheeling these stages around the track at like midnight
That's amazing.
to get it to his truck, and we put it in the truck, and we took it to my parents' house, and we set him up, and it was a perfect fit. And yeah, we returned a couple days later, and we had this show, and the footage is crazy to see how young we all are, and all of these people that were there that eventually went on to be in these huge bands, and it's a trip. One of these days it'll be cool to release it, but I think we have to get permission from some of these other bands.
Yeah. That's,
Oh, wow.
amazing that you have it, even if you don't release it, because you can always kind of reference back to that first point, that like piece of where you fell in
Yeah.
love. Yeah.
Yeah, I fell in love with. I mean, I always loved music. And I always thought from an early age that I experienced music different than some of my friends at the time, because I would be like, "Did you gotta listen? You gotta listen to this," and I would show them while I was getting goosebumps in my arms from certain chord changes and parts and stuff like that, and they would look at me like, "Dude, what are you talking about? Like, that's a cool song," you know? And I don't think that's like, oh my God, you're so special. I think there's millions of people who have this, who feel the same way. But my immediate friends weren't them, you know. So it always felt a little strange. So when I got around to some people who had that same type of reaction to certain things, it was exciting.
Yeah, we can relate on just a nerd level. That's why we started the podcast. Like, oh, you're a geek. I'm a geek. Let's just talk about music. So similar.
Yeah, I mean, I was never like a geek as far as like getting into the I don't know, the nuts and bolts of gear and sadly the history of music in general. But I was always a geek on how the way sounds made me feel. That's what I geeked out on.
Can certainly relate to that here. That's why we've been doing this for 5 years and been friends and music fans for 30 and going to shows and just doing that thing. But I'm gonna dial it back, and this is the nerd level that we are. When the self-titled record came out, remember saving up our $6.97 to buy it at our local record store, and then doing a backtrack and trying to find They Sure Don't Make Basketball Shorts like they used to on eBay. And at the time, it was like $50 to get that CD. They're $250 on Discogs sealed right now. So if you got a couple lying around, I'd love one, A, and B, sell them.
I don't know. I got some things on a shelf. I don't know. You know who has all that kind of stuff is our guitar player, Dan. He has boxes of those things. So I'm not the most nostalgic as far as that goes. But we rehearse at his house still. And there are boxes laying around. And that's another thing we always kind of like go, wouldn't it be cool to like re-release this or remix it, remaster it, and put it out there. along with maybe, like I said, some of that footage from our very first show and
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff. I don't know. I mean, there's probably a small market for that, but
I mean, $250 sealed on Discogs already. Like, there's a decent market right there.
Yeah, that's some demand there. Just go right to wax.
those 10 people are really driving up the price.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I was one that wanted one, and back, we're talking 2000, 2002, whatever. But now, at that price, I don't know. I do it, but now I know you a little bit. Maybe I'll shoot my email address. We can.
Yeah,
I'll pay
what?
50.
You know what's funny is I don't even have I don't own a copy of it. If I wanted one, I'll just go, Dan, give me a copy. But I don't have one in my house. Some of those those songs I listen to, and I just go, oh my god,
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is, but it's pretty funny.
The whole when I think about, you talk about mid-90s first show, and you talk about Dan, and and Chris would have been in the band too, and that this video that was in the camcorder days. Like, a lot of young people don't have that.
Yeah, it was the shoulder-mounted one.
Yeah,
it wasn't even like the one that was like handheld. It was like shoulder-mounted, full-size VHS tape dropping in. It was I mean, there was no like, oh, are you recording? You knew you're walking around with a freaking bazooka, like on your shoulder.
So you knew this whole story would play out that way, and you knew you had to get footage from that first show.
Yeah, it was all planned exactly how I thought it was going to fold.
Yeah.
But how did it start? Like, just a bunch of friends, and I know you, Dan, and Chris are still with the band, which is remarkable. That is so rare.
Yeah, like I said, in high school, Dan and I met in high school when I was a junior and he was a sophomore. We were in different bands. I didn't even really know. I wasn't in a band actually at the time. I had picked up guitar in the 8th grade because I loved music, and I was in Japan for a few months. At my grandma's house, and I was bored as fuck, and there was nothing to do, and my uncle's acoustic guitar was in there, so I started teaching myself how to play. So I just kept on teaching myself, fast forward to high school, and I wasn't in the band. I was always very introverted and shy, and had a pretty small circle of friends. I'm in auto shop, and I think I have, according to Dan, I had like one of those Diodario guitar string stickers on my notebook as he was walking by, and he said he made a mental note like, oh, that guy plays guitar. And
Wow.
We just started talking a little bit. And our senior year, we had a mutual friend who was in his grade and was like my childhood best friend, like neighborhood buddy growing up. And so that was kind of our connection through this one guy. And Dan was already in a band, and my buddy was like, dude, I'm going to start a band. And I had no interest, terrified of doing anything in front of people. And they're like, oh, I already got, this guy playing drums and this guy's going to play guitar. And I just remember thinking, fuck, like, I can play bass because I can play guitar. And I got another buddy.
Who can't play bass?
Right. And I had a friend who played bass, but not really. I'm like, can I borrow your bass? And I was literally it was pure FOMO. Like, I didn't want my friends to do this thing that could be fun, and I'm going to miss out on it. And so against all my anxiety, I said, dude, I'll play bass in this band. And I remember they somehow, I want to say Dan and his bandmates organized or convinced the high school to put together this battle of the bands. And I remember they had auditions and everything, and playing, and I covering some songs, and just being terrified. I was so terrified playing bass guitar in front of 15 kids and some teachers. And I remember my fingers would cramp up just holding the pick. I was so terrified. Fast forward, we make the battle of bands. Our bands play. It wasn't like a competition. None of the people who were in the bands that were playing were like, oh my God, we're going to win. It was just, like I said, this thing like, oh, we get to play in front of our friends, and we get to have this venue. And my band won, of course. And
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah, we knew that was coming.
we won because my buddy was a very charismatic frontman. And we'd played some Alice in Chains covers and a Rage cover and a couple originals. And from there on, we played some shows together, my band and Dan's band, at house parties at my parents' house, where we had the original house party, but it wasn't Hoobastank. It was my high school band and his high school band. which is where we got the idea to eventually have this other party. And that's it. I think once it was their senior year, because they were a year below me, some of their band, everybody's kind of going separate ways, going to college and stuff. And Dan and I were kind of like, well, we're just sticking around, and let's fuck around and start writing some music. We were hanging out a lot more at that point, and so that's just kind of how it started. He had a 4-track, I had a 4-track. While a lot of our friends and buddies were going off to college or going to parties and stuff on the weekends, I remember literally taking like the drums, setting them up in my mom's garage, and he and I would just write stupid song, like goofball joke songs, where the goal was, let's write something stupid and then play it for our friends and get them to laugh. It was just purely like that.
I like
We
that.
would switch off. I'd play drums on a song and he'd, do the bass, and I'd play guitar, and we would swap, trade off on vocals and stuff like that. And that was fun. It was so much fun. We got the reactions we wanted out of our friends. And I just kind of thought of it like that. That was it. But I think he always knew that he wanted to do something with music. And almost in the same way with the first band, he's like, I'm going to start looking to start another band. And he started putting out ads in the paper, because this pre-internet, like
Yep.
You hear that, folks? Pre-internet, it
Yeah.
existed.
we had to like put out ads. And again, I was like, fuck, I kind of like doing this. This is a lot of fun. Maybe I'll throw my hat in there. And for a second, I'm like, well, I like guitar. I play guitar, but he played guitar and he was way better than me at guitar. And in my previous band, the handful of original songs that we wrote, I wrote all the lyrics and all the melodies as the bass player.
Right on.
And it was always very frustrating trying to translate that to my buddy who was the singer, translate my ideas and my vision. And so out of pure default, like, fuck it, I'll give singing a try. I can hold a melody. Let's do it. And, we put out the ad. His original bass player, this guy named Marku from the band he was with in high school, basically answered back and said, yeah, let's keep going. So it was the three of us. And after a few auditions, I think just a handful, Chris responded. This was like in December of '94, and I remember just starting to practice a little, the four of us, and and then we practiced for wrote songs up until June of '95, threw a big party, and three of the four of us are still around 30 years later.
Was it super daunting for you to get in front of the mic?
Terrifying, absolutely terrifying. I scared to death. First song or however many, I just literally just closing my eyes and trying to play it off and getting through it. But once you kind of hit a groove, it was a feeling that I had never experienced before. Being, like I said, a quiet kid, very introverted, having this power, for lack of a better term, and this attention, while I didn't seek it, it felt really good, and I mean, I got off stage, and into my room because it was right around the corner.
Yeah.
Nice.
And my legs, my calves both cramped up. So much adrenaline coming in. I was like, so much adrenaline going through me. And I don't want to say at that point I was addicted to that rush, but I remember feeling like, fuck, that was so much fun. That was so exciting. And I want to do that again, And I still get nervous going out on stage. And that seems weird. You would think that after 30 years, it would be like nothing. But there's still an amount of anxiety that I take out there with me that I try to use to my benefit. But I don't know why. I think it's just it's so unlike my natural state. My parents forever just like, who the fuck are you? Like, like, who is this guy on stage? Like, this isn't you. Like, who is this person? And it took a long time for them to go, oh, that's just what he does. Like, because when the second I get off stage, I kind of return to this quieter dude, but it just gives me a moment to kind of be this alter ego.
Did you know you had pipes at the time, or did they know? Because like,
No, dude, I
This-
still don't have pipe.
Oh,
What do you
you're selling
mean?
yourself short. Selling yourself
well,
short.
like back then, there's no monitors. It's just probably a PA, and you probably can't even
No,
hear
I was
yourself.
actually singing out of my bass amp.
No.
The PA was my bass amp, so I just had to have it loud enough that I could hear. I don't know. I just always felt I sang in my car all the fucking time. That's where I would realize, oh, I can sing along with Pearl Jam. I could sing along with Faith No More and stuff like that. Like, this is cool. I don't know. I just like guitar. I'm a self-taught singer, and just by default, if you do something for so long, you understand how your voice works or how to do things. And I've taken a handful of lessons along the way, and they've kind of steered me in certain directions. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like anybody can sing. Like when it goes, oh, you got pipes. I'm like, well, that's because I've been doing it for a long time. But singing is, I tell this to my kids who don't want to sing, by the way. Like singing is about confidence. Like anything you do, I guess, is about confidence. You have to not give a fuck about what you think people are going to judge you. Just put your voice out there. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, if it's not, it's kind of cooler. Like it's your own thing, and own it. Own the mess ups. Own the imperfections, and you'll be a singer. Like people will love that, the authenticity of it. Not the whole like, look at these perfect. Look at my perfect pitch, and look at all these scales I can do. People don't fucking care about that. I mean, I think at their core,
You just gave me the confidence to go
that's
sing.
why I could sing. That's
For
why I
real.
can go sing. Yeah, because I have learned to do a lot of those things that people will consider quote unquote like what a good singer does. But I think at the end of the day, it's really communication. You're trying to get a point, or like earlier said, you're trying to convey an emotion to somebody, and that doesn't require training. You're trying to get a point across. That's all.
There's another part of it though, which is because some people just sing. They get people that write and compose for them, but you're also songwriting. So were you like journaling and had ideas kind of laid out beforehand, or
What's crazy?
I
Besides
love
the
that.
fact
I love
that
when guests reach back. You
Yeah.
know something
Yeah.
good's coming.
Yep.
besides the fact that I have a boxed iPhone 1
Ooh,
here.
No.
Wow.
Look at this thing.
damn.
That's
nice.
worth thousands of dollars.
Wow.
Is it? I keep hearing
don't
that,
know.
but I don't know. It's not scratched, it's not damaged, it's brand fucking new. Anyways, back here I have all these random old journals and stuff. Some of these books, people just give me, like for a while, my parents were like, oh, he's a singer. We should get him some leather bound books. And I don't fucking,
That's
I don't
amazing.
use any of these shit.
That's amazing.
Right? Yeah. So hold on, let me turn off the keyboard, or it's gonna be like bring, 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 bring. Yeah. So I had all these random some of this is old. These random things. And I would journal or stream of conscious type stuff, Oh, here's what I was looking for. Stuff all the time. I don't know if you can read this. It says Hoopstank original lyrics must be returned. So I think at some point I took all these and I gave them to the record label to scan.
Oh, right on. Yeah.
But this is for the Reason album, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So these are the original lyrics to Out of Control. But it
Wow.
was called
Nice.
The Endless Mystery, something, and it's all this fucking
Yeah.
crossouts and stuff. And the other day, I didn't even realize I had this because I'm not the nostalgic type again, like I said. The other day I was like I found it, like, oh cool. And I stumbled across, where is it? I don't know. I think it was I think it's still in here. If not, that just shows you that how careless I am. The original Reason lyrics, which like I said, I don't even know. It's somewhere in here, and they're all stained, like water stains on the bottom. 'Cause I probably spilled something on them, and doesn't fucking matter.
Wait, you mean you didn't know
Anyways.
Island Records would want to scan them all these years later?
Dude, I don't. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, right.
So, and this goes right back on the shelf where they could get water damaged again. Whatever. I did journal. I didn't see myself as a lyricist, so to say. Like, although my English teacher really enjoyed my writing, apparently, is what she wrote in my yearbook. I don't know. To this day, I don't consider myself a, I don't know, there's different types of lyricists, you know, and I think almost like what I was talking about, just being simple and authentic vocally, I feel like my sweet spot is being simple and authentic lyrically. There are vocalists who can sing so amazing, and then there's lyricists also that can just write the most clever and beautiful lyrics that evoke so much imagery and poetry. And I've every once in a while I'll venture off to try to mimic that a little bit, but I find that's not really my, like I said, my sweet spot. My sweet spot is just like if I'm feeling something or I feel passionate about something on the daily, I'm gonna literally break out my phone and write what I'm thinking in the moment and just keep going for a little bit, and I'll just have that in my notes, you know. And that's what I would do with an actual note, like with an actual folder. I would just, oh shit, write some stuff down, write it on a napkin, whatever. And that was my process really. I don't consider myself a poet by any means.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
a dude who has who has experienced pretty much the normal spectrum of emotions that anybody has.
Uh,
But I have, I guess, an avenue to tell people about it.
yeah, well said. I mean, you said you could sing in the car to you name dropped Pearl Jam. I'm a big fan. He's one of his quotes is like, you know, you're not. A lot of the times for him, what he said is, I'm not tapping into it. It's tapping into me, and that's when you write it down. It's literally coming to you somehow.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. I don't. I've tried it. You know, when you have like writer's block, or at least you try to get too scientific about it. I mean, especially I don't want to go veer too far off, but post Reason album, post Reason song. I mean, obviously we're loving this commercial success, and you're trying to like reverse engineer the song. You're going, oh, dude, this song was in this key. I'm singing this. Is that my sweet spot vocally? I'm singing about this. This is what kind of emotion is this? I mean, I know people that don't want to hear this isn't like the romantic approach to songwriting. And what's the BPM to this? Why does that work? Why did this lyric work? And you just kind of like you said, go backward rather than feeling something and letting it come out. You're trying to like manufacture this thing. And I don't, while the rational side of me kind of enjoys that because in a weird way, we've written songs like a movie soundtracks where they'll tell you like, well, this is what's happening. This is what the character's doing. Write something about it. So it's kind of like you said, reverse engineering, which is fun. But I feel like at the end of the day, the audience, for the most part, can tell what's authentic and what's not. And maybe it's because of how you're saying it, maybe because it's of how you're emoting it or whatever. Yeah, I think for a while now, I've been on the authenticity like tip, especially with a lot of these new ideas we've been writing for the last, 4 or 5 years. There's still a couple guys in the band who, I go come with this idea and they're like, well, I know what that song is about. It's very specific to you, Doug, but who else is going to relate to that? And in the past, I might have been like, yeah, you're right. Maybe I should change a few words to make it a broader, like a cast a wider net. And now I'm like, I don't, who fucking cares? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
like it
love
relates
that.
to me. It
Yeah.
relates to me. And and I'm not experiencing anything completely brand new to human beings, somebody's going to understand what I'm going through, regardless of how specific or niche it may be. So I'm kind of in that mindset right now.
Love getting the behind the scenes kind of thoughts to that stuff. And, you put together a couple of records early that kind of went nuts. Obviously, the Reason was massive, still is. Everybody knows that song. And then you get to a point where you're thinking to yourself, we have to recreate that. And that's not really fair to you as an artist, not really fair as to artists in general who have that situation happen, because you want to just kind of keep doing what you're doing and come up with the thing that makes you feel something and then put that out there and have the authenticity win. But it just doesn't always work that way, unfortunately. But it's cool to hear that you're back on that tip and doing it that way, because yeah, that makes sense to me.
It's hard, yeah, having commercial success and also having it be like your only It's the only thing we do. You know, we don't have side jobs. So there's a certain amount, obviously, of your livelihood that rides on how well people receive your work, you know? And so it's hard to convince everybody to go turn that part off. Be be pure and authentic, and let's not worry about the if it's going to reach people, because in the back of your head there's that little voice going, oh, like I gotta fucking pay for groceries still.
Absolutely.
We love getting into the origin story, which you gave us. Doug, we've been doing, like we said, we've been doing this for 5 years. That's an all-time like band origin story. It's supernatural. It's an accident, right? You just a bunch of young kids and getting some behind the scenes on the creative process. And I like it for you guys because, ourselves included, when you guys broke through in like '01, a lot of us thought like you were new. But hearing all this, and we knew this over time, it's like, no, guys, the story started 8 years ago. It's not like we're an industry plant, we've been doing this. And that's when we took notice, was the self-titled, much like a lot of people.
Well, I mean, that's to nobody's fault, except this is the way it is. If we're like a local Southern California band, unsigned from 95 to 2000, I don't expect people to know outside of where we've played.
It's true.
So it wasn't that, it wasn't like an insult to me when in 2001, 2002, people were like, oh, you guys kind of like came out of nowhere. Well, yeah, that's because you didn't have a chance to hear us for the last 7 years. And, notwithstanding, in 1999, we got turned down by every single record label.
Wow.
We had worked from 95 to 99, establishing ourselves as a pretty big unsigned LA band. And we had a manager, and he had procured like this demo deal with Mercury Records, I think. And I feel like we were getting pulled into the business aspect of what we were doing. And, we were friends with the guys in Incubus, and they had signed a deal earlier and were kind of on their way. And we were around people who were getting deals, and so we get this demo deal, and it was like basically like, let's hear some of your new music. If we like it, we'll sign you, and so we're like, dude, it's a foregone conclusion. We're in, like it's finally gonna happen. And we record some songs that were our new songs at the time that were pretty shitty in hindsight, and and they said thanks, but no thanks. And they even said you can keep all the demos and shop it around to try to get a deal, which we did, and everybody said no. And it's hard enough to get a record deal on its own, and I would think that it's even harder once everybody knows who you are and they've already said no.
Yeah,
Right on. That's a good point.
You go back to the drawing board, and you have to retool, do everything over, change your name, whatever. And we kind of did, but not in that sense. What we did is we fired our manager, and we stopped shopping music. Like, we kind of said, fuck it. I love playing music with you guys, even if it's something we just do on the weekends while we work other jobs. So let's not worry about the success or failure of getting a record deal. Let's just do it because why we do it. We like to do it. Like, it's a rush. It's exciting. It's creatively fulfilling. And that's all we did. We didn't change the name. We didn't do anything. And then like 9 months later, we had a record deal.
There you go.
It was
Crazy.
It was the thing where you stop pushing. It's like when you act like you don't care, and then the record labels came to us instead.
That's crazy. Yeah. And doesn't, I would imagine, as you said, like having put yourself out there to everybody before, a year prior roughly, and to get a bunch of no's, it's got to be real hard at that point to have anybody be like, let's try again with these guys, because you didn't change much, right? Your name's the same, you're making music, whatever, and all of a sudden they're like, all right, yeah, let's do it.
Well, we all I could say we changed is that up to that point we had some sax players, or a sax player who was also playing keyboards and kind of stuff, and I've always loved the dude. I'm still friends with them. We went to high school with them, but that was always an element that I kind of bit my tongue on and just kind of let be. It was never my thing per se. And I don't want to say it was my idea to go do. We need to like maybe phase out the horns. But it happened. I'm like, we need to phase out the horns and maybe add some other element, some keys or something like that. So there was a few shows where our sax player was playing keys instead. And I don't remember at the time, but I felt as a band, we were kind of going, dude, I don't know if this is working, you know? And then we had to have that hard talk, like I said, because he's a great dude and he was a friend of ours. Like, dude, I don't know if we need this anymore, you know? And it sucked. And then I think right after we wrote some songs, a handful of songs, and we just, like I said, from that point, we just kind of were going on making songs for the fans that were at the shows. And then the rest kind of was history.
And what year is this? This is like 97, 98?
This was 99 when we got turned down. So I would say like late 99 through August of 2000 is when we got signed.
Wow.
The early 2000s is when we were really kind of, I don't want to say ignoring, but pretty much compared to what we were, ignoring the industry aspect of it and just going, let's write music we love. Let's perform how we love to perform. And let's stop sending demos out to people. That's it. Just fuck it. You know, let's be a self-contained unit. Let's find our happiness here instead of going, oh, we'll be cool as long as only if we get signed, you know? And yeah, I don't know. Not to get too like, you know, ooh, you got to be happy with him, but I got to feel like there's something to that, you know, like that we were a self-contained unit and we didn't need them anymore and we weren't chasing them anymore.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, just the timing alone is very interesting because there's almost like an inflection point between like mid 90s to like the latter half of the 90s. There's a new metal scene pumping. And for the record labels, there's almost, I don't want to say an oversaturation of talent in Southern California, but there kind of was. I mean, a lot of what we learned out here in, you know, the Northeast and Maine is like coming from that scene. So as a record label, it was probably like, damn, Diamond Dozen, who we signing, who we not signing. We got to kind of pick and choose here.
There was definitely that. I don't necessarily think that there was like a special overflow of talent necessarily. I do think though, and I'm not comparing the impact of like the Seattle scene as was like the SoCal scene, but you signed a couple bands from Southern California who are all influenced by their environment and the lifestyle and each other to a certain extent. And one of those bands has success, or multiple bands, then record labels are like sharks, man. That's like blood in the water. They started throwing
Totally.
record deals at everybody out here. All of my friends that we would play in local bands all had fucking major deals like by the 2001. Like all these bands out here.
Crazy.
So it was like one band made it or two bands made it and everybody got to like jump on. And from there, you kind of had to fend for yourself, not like compete against them. But at that point, you know, it's just up to them now to see, or, you know, if they're going to survive. But I don't necessarily think like, dude, there was something special going on here. You know, like I just think the record labels are very opportunistic and they saw like, oh, this is, you know, they're trying to predict, like buying stocks. They're like, oh shit, this area is doing well. Everybody buy, you know, and some of them are going to pay off and some aren't.
Yeah, we actually equate a lot of, when we're talking new music on this podcast, you know, 20 years, 25 years later, we equate it to stocks still. So it's absolutely like that, right? You see this area kind of blowing up and you want to make sure that you've looked it over and gotten everybody that's talented out of
Get
there.
in early, sign all these bands. You never know who's going to stick. I don't know necessarily if we were one of the, I kind of feel like we were, we weren't on the, dude, just sign them. We don't care, like side. Not to say that literally was ever said, but that attitude. I kind of feel like bands like Incubus and System of a Down and all these bands that we used to play shows with out here, like before they were signed, those were the ones that were giving, like I would say, the most pure opportunity. Like, dude, we love you guys. Let's go. I feel like we're kind of in the second tier there. Like, okay, these are doing well. Let's see what they got, you know? And then if you keep going down the line, there's other bands too, you know?
Well, you clearly made the most of your opportunity. I mean, the first record did really well. You're touring all over the place, and then you put out one of the more ubiquitous songs in the last 25 years. Everybody knows. So pretty wild stuff.
Speechless.
Yeah.
Dude, I would like to say like, yeah, man, we're fucking great, but it's all happenstance is the way I see it.
Doug, let's talk that POC at a time, because like there's like a sequence of events that you kind of like you know you did it right. So Island takes notice, self-titled pops off, The Reason goes into the stratosphere. Was there a moment where you're like, shit, like this is happening, like the train left the station, guys, like this is happening, whether we signed up for it or not, this is real, and we're the band that's, you know, in the thick of it?
Yeah, I feel like there's been multiple moments like that along the way, you know, from certain shows before we were signed, talking with certain people, going, and then thinking to myself like, oh shit, dude, they don't see me the way I see me as just a dude from the suburbs, you know, playing music with their friends. They see me like a legit band, like, and okay, they think I'm legit.
We did,
But
and we still do.
there's things like that along the way. Getting a record deal obviously was really cool. One of those moments. I think like doing stuff around creating the first album, whether it was like photo shoots or videos and going on tour, getting on a bus and that kind of thing. That's when you start to go like, oh, dude, this is
That's great.
this is like the movies. I'm in the fucking movie. It was never part of my plan, and it's kind of like now you can't. It gets to a point like you said, like the train's left. I can't kill it. Dude, I went off. You're going.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's exciting and a little bit scary. I'm the kind of guy who kind of just goes with it anyways. So that was big. Playing on like TV shows and I don't know. That first record cycle was, we as a band unanimously agree that from like 2001 through 2003 was probably the best period of our lives. Like as a band, but also just as human beings. Like we achieved something. We wrote and recorded a record for the first time because everything was just the first. You know, we went on tour for the first time on the radio. Everything was the first time we've experienced playing with these bands that we grew up listening to, and even though we weren't our biggest at the end of that first record, it was obviously pretty successful. It was all like just happiness and excitement. And with those moments, like, dude, we made it, you know, it's gone off. And like you said, we're here, not knowing at all what was about to happen
Right.
with the next album. Yeah. I think one of you said earlier, like, people are trying to say, well, what's going to be the next, you know, Reason song? Well, after the first album, our label and management, all of those people are like, well, what's going to be the next Crawling in the Dark? You guys going to do that again, you know? Or not
Of
do
course
it again,
they
but
said that. Of course.
what's going to be, they're not saying you don't have to write that song again, but that was your biggest song. What, you know, how are we going to do this? The sophomore, how are you going to get by the sophomore slump? And ironically, we didn't write Crawling in the Dark to be a single. It was the last song that we wrote. We wrote it in the final couple days of pre-production. So we got a record deal without that song. We got through pre-production up until, you know, day 12 of 14, where Dan came in. He's like, dude, I got this idea. He played it for me on his answering machine. Like,
Nice.
I recorded it on my answering machine. Yeah. And I took it home, made some suggestions, and came back with the melody and the chord changes overnight. We arranged it in the last day or two of pre-production, and it was the first song we recorded, and it was the first single. So it happened very organically, like boom, there it is. And so once again, they're asking you to repeat something that came naturally. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Good
it's
luck.
impossible.
So and then obviously the Reason wasn't the intention. It was like, dude, it was just one of our more mellow rock songs that we'd had on the self-titled album, that we'd had on a ton of our demos. There's the mellower song on the basketball shorts. It was always an aspect of who we were, and that's just kind of how we saw it.
Well, it was wasn't forced. That's I guess it comes back to that point that it wasn't forced. It was something you guys just did and made and felt, and it struck a chord with a lot of people.
Yeah, thank God.
Right? Yeah.
Well, I know like we talk about Island Records, and I mean that was, you had probably for the first time like kind of a machine working for you. Like we got the Rival School split sampler, and I'm gonna see if you remember this. Do you remember this? It looks like a credit card shape, and it's a little promo to like win a Game Boy Advance. So you go from playing your parents' backyard 5 years later, and now you're in the thick of, you know,
now I'm looking back.
Major labels.
Like, what do I got? What do I got?
Nice. I love it. I love it.
Let me see. I'm gonna stand on my chair. What do I got here?
Oh, don't fall down.
Oh, is this it? Oh no.
I have never been more nervous for a guest than right now.
No. Don't be nervous. Although, check this out. I got a bunch of these. If you got that, you must have gotten these, right?
No, I do have that.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
All day.
With this, look at this on the back. In stores.
Yep.
In stores, November 20th, 2001. So I got stacks of these still.
So does
I
Nate
used
somewhere.
I used to have one of those on a beer pong table that we used to play on.
I had that on my school scheduler. Like, what class am I going to next?
Island was great. Our product manager was awesome. Our A&R guy was awesome. It was everybody that just believed in us, which I don't want to say later on when we were in Island for album 3 and 4 that because it was a different team that, they're responsible for the lack of success or whatever that was different, because I know it's not that simple. These people are really good at their jobs. But at the time, we had a team that was very aggressive, very forward thinking. And like I said, they appeared to really believe in what we were doing. So it was cool. It was part of that experience, like you were talking about, that this just seems to, like, the train's left. I have no control of this. I just have to do what's happening, on the day to day. But yeah, they were great. It was cool to feel like you had this big team behind you.
And then the promotion behind that, right, for this record was a national tour. I saw you guys open for, you talked about Incubus earlier, in New Hampshire. It was like 3 days after 9/11. Was that your first national tour?
So you were at that show?
Yeah, that was an amazing show.
Wow.
With the candles and everything. Yeah.
I remember that show vividly. We were on tour with Dave Navarro right prior to that. Yeah, that was our first national tour, the Dave Navarro thing. I remember flying into Cleveland, getting on a bus first time, going around. When 9/11 happened, we were in St. Louis. And I remember thinking at the time, like, dude, it's going to be World War III. We're going to war. Like, my career, selfishly, I'm thinking, oh, dude, it's done. Like, the world doesn't care about music right now. There's bigger fish to fry, and then being talked about, because that was all, a few days before that show in New Hampshire. There was a lot of talks about it being canceled, and I know some of the Incubus guys weren't sure how they were going to get there because of all the flights, being changed and everything. And I forget, we started making our way there on a bus. And I think that might have been the first show with them. I mean, we've done a ton of shows with them at the fucking Whiskey and, in Hollywood and stuff like that. But this was our first show with them outside of LA, both as, as a signed band and stuff like that. And God, their crew was so mean to us at first. They were so, we were so green. It was just tough love. It wasn't like, they were just kind of old school. We ended up being really close with all those crew guys. Yeah, I remember that show, really well, and thinking how awesome it was, but still also being unsure of what was going to happen. We were in New York on the 14th and 15th, I believe. We had on that tour, 2 shows with them at the Hammerstein Ballroom. And that was my first time to New York ever. It was 3 days after 9/11,
Wow.
Yeah, it's sometimes it seems like another lifetime ago.
It certainly feels like a million years ago, right? We're almost 25, and we all remember where we were the day it happened. And I think, Anthony, we were in Spanish class, right? So, like 17 years old, and like, holy shit, the world's gonna end. But fortunately, it didn't. Obviously, we things got somewhat back to normal as the world can be. Then you guys kept at it and played with Incubus, and then we saw you again in the spring. You played our hometown, Portland, Maine, with 311 at the State Theater.
Yeah,
so that was a blast. I think you opened.
Dude, I remember that
Pieces.
show too.
Oh, awesome
I
show.
remember that show too.
Damn.
Yeah, great show. Yeah.
I want to say what I remember about that show is the stage. I feel like it had some kind of catwalk type vibe to it, where you can go out or venture out a little bit, and it was kind of at an angle. I don't know. I also remember getting a bunch of lobster rolls for lunch.
Yeah, yep.
Nice.
I mean, have to. You're in Maine.
That's crazy. That's funny. I'm usually pretty good at like, oh, I can remember that show and little things about each show, even after this much time. Like the guys usually I'm the first one to ask, like, have we been here? And I'm like, yeah. Remember we played here with so and so and blah blah blah, and this happened and this happened.
Nice.
And don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah, remember stuff when you're older. It's great.
Right?
Well, one thing about you guys is you've toured a lot, and the range of bands is always interesting. Like you've probably been on Concert Archives. I don't know if you know that website, but it details like your whole show in concert history. And I'm like, this band they could be the only band that could play this show, but then also come over here and play this show. And it's widely accepted. So like, where did you guys see yourself in a certain pocket, either sound wise or even touring circuit?
First of all, I don't know that website. I, for better or for worse, will say I'm the least plugged in to music as a musician of anybody I know. Like, I do it, but I don't follow it. It's kind of a weird, I don't know. Not necessarily, no, especially not originally. With the first album, we saw ourselves in the lane that we had created with Crawling in the Dark and Running Away. And that album, the success of the album, the bands we toured with that album, which were, Incubus and 311 and NERD, and, that was our sweet spot. That's what kind of, we had control of our perception, and we saw ourselves how the public saw ourselves to a certain point. The Reason album, Out of Control, is a continuation of that. This is still who we are. We're touring with Linkin Park and POD, and like this is what we are, And then the Reason song happened, and we actually fought the record label to put it out, to be honest with you.
Oh wow.
It I don't know if the story's true in hindsight, because later on Dan was like, did you actually believe that the record company was telling you the truth? And I was like, I never thought about it. Out of Control was at radio for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, however long they initially put it out there for, before they decide, are we going to move on, or are we going to pump some more money into this, to promote it more? And so it did all right. It wasn't, the biggest thing but it wasn't a flop. And here we are going, okay, well, let's keep pushing it. Let's just go. This is what we do, or if not, let's go to this other song. And it was probably another heavier song. And the label was like the story we were told. Like, okay, well, we can do that, or we can play this, we can release this song, The Reason. And we're like, why? Like maybe that would be a third single, because there was that strategy that they would always say, like, rock, crossover, whatever.
Yeah.
This is what they were telling us at the time. And the story that I remember is that there was a radio station already playing it. I could be pulling this out of thin air. I want to say it was in Utah. But it's like, I remember them saying, this radio station is already playing it. We didn't give it to them to play. We didn't do anything. They're already playing it. They did this on their own. And there's other stations that are starting to follow. And how rare this was, and yada, yada, yada. Like, you should jump on this opportunity. In hindsight, I don't know if I believe it all. But at the time, I did. At the time, I did.
Happened, though.
Right. And we still fought with them. I remember being pretty upset. This was like the first time I felt at ends with the record label. Up to that point, we kind of all saw, we're on the same page. And at this point, we're like, fuck no, dude, we don't want that. Like, because the downside is if we left rock or active rock, whatever you want to call it, and this is like the business aspect of it that is very unromantic. If you leave this genre to go to pop and you don't hit it, you can't go back. They're
Oh,
saying
yeah.
they won't
Yeah,
they
we
won't
know
let
that.
you back. Like they won't let you back in. Like so, and so you're telling me this is the brand Who Mistake. This is what we are. This is who I see myself as. This is who we are. You're telling us to take a chance on this, and if it doesn't work, we can't go back to what we were. Like then we're fucked. And that was the argument. Obviously, we lost the argument, and it ended up being right. But
Right.
it worked in a way. Now that I'm just thinking in real time here. It absolutely worked, but it was a double-edged sword, and I've said deep down in other interviews. At that point, the song took off and became bigger than the band, and the perception of the band by the public was now out of our control, and then it started to not match up with who we saw ourselves as. You know, we're like, dude, we're this, a bunch of skate punk kids from Southern California. We like heavy shit. We do all this stupid stuff. And now, our shows reflected that for years. For as long as we were a band, we played these wild high energy shows, and there's people flying around in bodies, and everybody's sweaty and bloody at the end. And now we're playing sold out, amphitheaters for 14-year-old girls and their parents. And so a huge section of our original fan base, like, what the fuck, you know? And it was so different than what we were used to that there are still people to this day who go like, dude, somebody wrote that for you guys. Like, why did you decide to do that? I'm like, dude, we
Wow.
didn't
Yeah.
decide to do shit. Like, we didn't do shit. It was all out of our control. And we kind of let the genie out of the bottle. So there was definitely a long time, years of us trying to a certain extent, as time passed, less and less, to control that genie. Like, we don't want it played here. We don't want to play this. We don't want to do that because that's not who we are. It is, but that's not all that we are. It's just one slice of the pie, And yeah, I mean, it's the sole reason, no pun intended, like why we've been able to have such a long career because that song has just lived on and on. So it's kept the door open for us in a lot of ways. So I wouldn't take it back at all. I would never be like, dude, I wish we never wrote that song or never released it. It happened and it happened. But there was definitely a long period of time where we didn't know how to deal with being perceived now as this other thing. And to circle way back around to your point, getting offers to play with these pop bands and these other things that we wouldn't have prior to that.
Right on.
And so it was never our intention to go, dude, I want to be able to play with Slipknot and then go play with the Black Eyed Peas, which we have and been received well in both. But I'd always gone back. One thing I do, I was a huge Faith No More fan, still am, and I always loved the fact that people found it so hard to pigeonhole them into what they were, And I always was a fan of their cynicism, even though I don't like to be cynical. I liked how sarcastic they were about the whole process. So I kind of feel like I embraced that a little bit. You know what? If we're gonna play, Slipknot Fest in Japan, I'm gonna fucking kind of lean into the heavy shit and joke about the softer stuff, And
Right on.
likewise, when we're playing with Ashanti and fucking Fat Joe, like
I love it. I'm in.
I'm gonna lean into this, like how ridiculous it is that we're here, but we're here, and it is what it is. Sometimes I wish it wasn't that way because there's a lot of festivals and tours that to this day I go, dude, we would be perfect in that thing, but they won't. We don't maybe get the offer because our on the Venn diagram it's just a little too wide, and they want a very specific type thing, even though we have overlap in there. So it wasn't a plan.
To give you guys credit, there's no blueprint or playbook when that happens. Like the amount of scenarios where like the path that I wouldn't even say you guys took that just kind of happened to you, it's like one of one. You know what I mean? It's not like here's the playbook to appease to this crowd, that crowd. You got the changing digital landscape. Everything's changing. So there's no playbook at all.
No, there never is though. But I think that takes a playbook, like you say, infers control. Like this is how you do it.
Right.
And there is no control. Like you can control what you do, can control your art, and I've always had a hard time even saying that art. I can control the words I write, the attitude I bring to the stage, and the rest is it's out there, like, and it's I think it takes a lot of, at least for us, as a collectively as a band, to embrace that. Dude, this is just what we do. If you love it, awesome. If you don't, that's cool too. Like, there's way more bands that I don't like than I do. so so I don't take offense
Yeah.
to it. And we've been doing it for too long to get butthurt by people not liking us. What's really funny, now that I think about that, last night we just played a show in New Orleans, and we came back last night. I was talking to my daughter who's 14, and I don't know why she would do this. I perpetually joke about the band to her. Like, it's my job as a parent to make my kids embarrassed about things. So we jokingly have been calling the band the Big H for a while,
Nice.
which is what Dan jokingly said at a stupid show. "Oh, the Big H is back, baby!" Like, and it became a joke. So with the kids, I always tell them, like, any little thing that happens, I'm like, what happened? It's the Big H, the Big H. And they're like, "Dad, you're so stupid," and I guess while I was gone, she Googled, "Why do people hate Hoobastank so much?"
Oh, man.
and,
Jesus.
and so she goes down the Reddit hole of reading. She's like, "Dad, people think you guys suck." Like, and they're not even the band. They think you suck. And she's like, "You think you can't sing, that you're terrible?" And I'm just dying. I'm laughing. I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right." I'm all, think about it though. The bigger you get, the bigger your target is. Like, I understand when things get so big, I start to hate it. Like, so with that, you got to take the other, kiddo. Like, but also I'm trying to just tell her it doesn't fucking matter. Everybody's got a fucking opinion about everything. It doesn't matter. I told her, I'm like, "Look, if anything you take from this, you just told me that millions of people hate me. I already knew this. Like, I already knew this.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
and I'm not going to lose a second of sleep about it. And I'm going to laugh this off. I want you to be able to take that with you, like, people's opinions don't matter. A certain few people that you respect, they will matter. You might care about what they have to say, but the mass, like belonging to the cool crowd or whatever, don't get sucked up into that."
Well, and everybody has a megaphone too nowadays. Where 25 years ago, there was less of that. It was starting to happen, but nowadays everybody has an opinion and a way to say it and put it out there. So you're gonna run into everybody that does. A lot of people that don't like you.
And I don't say that from a sense of like, "Oh, we suck. Well, what are you doing with your life?" Not at all. I don't mean that at all. I literally, and I don't mean if some guy's like, "Dude, I think you're kind of a shitty singer." I don't go, "Oh my God, well, can you sing?" It's not a contest. Like, I honestly, and when I say I don't care, I don't mean that like I don't care about you. It just doesn't bother me. Like, people, you're allowed to think that, because I understand I feel that way about a lot of things too, you know? And it's not an indictment on who I am as a person. And at the end of the day, I go, "Look, dude, you're probably just not the target audience, to be honest with you, like,
It's not for you.
that's okay.
It's not for
It's
you.
not for
End
you."
of story.
Yeah, it's exactly. And I'm not offended by that. Like, because it's not for everybody. I get it.
So you mentioned you started in 94. It's been 30 plus years. We were talking, I think it was yesterday, how like you have 3 original members. You never broke up. And if you did, you didn't announce it. There's no formal. So you guys, like, we talk about Blueprint and Playbook. You guys kind of did it right. Because nowadays, if you announce you're broken up and you come back, it's a sales move and all this.
You get panned on the internet, right?
Yeah, you get panned on the internet. But you guys, you never even
really, because we've talked about going, dude, we should have just said we broke up.
Well, yeah, you might
come
make
back
some
and
money.
there's a story.
Yeah, the offers are doubled. Fucking bullshit.
You'd be the biggest band on the planet again. But that's like so admirable, and it seems like you're still having fun too. I know you're embracing the online a little bit. I know you said you don't pay attention online a lot, but it seems like you're still having fun with it all.
I do at times. I'm thinking about the online thing, and like, dude, I need to be doing there's all these hoops you got to jump through now. They're like, "Oh, you got to be creating this content, this and this and that," and they're probably right. And when I say they, it's like other band members and management and stuff like that. But just like the music, I put out when something speaks to me, like, oh, this is,
Right
like,
on.
and then I let it go. I don't do it for an advertisement. I don't do it for clicks or whatever. And it kind of should be that, I guess I feel like you're hammering out a lot of the same things here, themes. Like, that's how the music should be. I'm going to write it, put it out, and then let it go. Like, it's out of my control. Not going to micromanage how it's perceived. It's out of my control. As far as breaking up and getting back together, we have joked about that. Like,
I love it.
for a vast, amount or a majority of casual fans, they'll be like, dude, you guys are still together? As far as they know, we fucking broke up years ago, and I have to go, no, dude, we've actually been playing, 50 to 100 shows a year for the last 25 years.
Crazy.
We still play all the fucking time. And I think people just don't realize the tiers of music. I didn't when I was a casual listener and when I was, younger. Most people just don't think, well, if you're not being pushed in the face on the radio constantly, or if you're not being talked about on social media constantly, then you don't exist. When there's thousands of musicians who are playing shows constantly and making music and stuff like that that are doing their thing. And that's kind of where we fell. We were once the band that was in your face constantly, you couldn't escape to but remind that wasn't us pushing it. That was out of our control to a certain extent. And we just keep doing our thing. And sometimes a little blip will come on the radar and we'll say hi to everybody because everybody goes, oh, look, they're still here. Hey, and then the spotlight will go, Sauron's eye will focus on someone else. And then we'll just keep doing our thing. And that's it. That's what we do.
So what's next for you right now? I know we get some live shows coming up. I think we're talking to you right before you're at Sonic Temple, but this is going to come out after that. So some June shows that are coming up. I think not just a phase, right? A couple of weekends in
There's
Kansas
the
City.
Sonic Temple. There's a Welcome to Rockville a week later. There's a few, not just a Phase Fest. There's like 3, not just a Phase Fest.
Crazy,
Stuff
yeah.
I'm like, really? Like, is this
Not
a
just
brand,
Phases
or
Fest.
you guys? Yeah, are you? It's. I'm actually literally wondering, is this like a thing, a branded thing, or are you guys just running out of ideas to what to call it?
Right.
It's so we got those, and there's just a lot of weekend stuff. That's kind of how we stay busy. We that's how we end up playing, like I said, 50 to 7,500 shows a year because we're gone. We play two shows. We'll go to Japan or Indonesia for a couple weeks. We'll play 10 shows and then come back and show here, show there. Yeah, that's it. And people ask me, we've been writing. We have been writing a lot. I feel like every album we've gone in to write, we have the intention of recording 12 or 13 songs and putting 11 or 12 out, keeping one in the back pocket or something like that. And without fail, every time we've gone into to do that, we only have like 9 or 10 songs. We've always had to continue to write. We don't even have enough for an album. I think the last record we put out was like in 2018.
Yeah, 2018.
And with COVID and a lot of interesting personal things in my own life, keeping me from really focusing on music, it just kind of stopped for the last few years. An accumulation of all these musical ideas from Dan and from Jesse, our bass player, had piled up, and I kind of just dove back into everything. And I feel like at this point, we have for the first time in our careers, we have too many songs to choose from. Like,
Wow.
Nice.
we sit around and go, dude, well, let's pick 5 to record, and we'll kind of come to a consensus on 5. And then next week I'll come back, like, dude, I think I like these 5 instead. And then the next week I'll come back and I'm like, no, we swap these 3 out, put these 3. I'm like, I just don't know. And then they keep sending me new shit to write on. So I would like to say we have a ton of music or potential music. And the only thing that's keeping us from putting it out is ourselves, to be honest with you. Like anything, there's still that self-doubt demon, well, we want to record these 5, but I don't know if this is a single. And I kind of feel like that's the Dan and Chris, who's our drummer and our our guitar player, they're the more rational in this aspect, the less romantic. Like, dude, I don't know, is it
Yeah.
going to be big? And myself and Jesse, the bass player, are like, fuck it, who cares? You know, let's just
Yeah,
put music out. We can't let what is that saying? We can't let the good be like the enemy of the great or something like that. You know,
Yeah,
these
yeah.
songs are good. I think they're good. Like, we can't wait around for the perfect song because that perfect song has always happened organically and we never knew it existed when we put it out. Like, it could be one of these songs. So if I can somehow corral everybody to get on that type of pseudo romantic, headspace, I think we can put out a lot of shit. But we'll see.
I feel like it's a blessing and a curse too, right? Because when you were in those early days, like the labels, like you have this deadline, and if you miss it, in some cases that I've read, at least, I don't know if this is accurate, the band gets fined out of their advance if you don't make the deadline. So at least you're kind of, I don't know, not a free agent, but you're flexible in that fact that you
Yeah.
can rate
I
when you
mean,
want.
we never, that, that never happened. I don't remember, at least that was never told. We had schedules like, oh, we're going to come off the road at the end of, December or whatever. And I think you guys, management will be like, I think you guys need to write from January to April, and we're going to try to get it in the studio in May. But it was never like, oh, dude, if we're not in May, we're taking money. We were like, we were always excited to do it. So I never experienced that. That sounds fucked up.
Yeah, yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Like, why would the label need to take money back from a fucking artist? Like,
I
Jesus.
think the rationale from what I've read is the fact that they have a producer almost on like a retainer. And if like you're just dragging it out, the producer's like, well, I got another album with Chili Peppers like in a month. So if you guys aren't done, like I guess find a new producer. And then obviously that's money down the drain.
Yeah. No, that could be it for sure. I didn't think about it that way. But I also think producers are like what we talked about earlier. Like, if one hits it, then everybody thinks he's all hot, as if that person was in total control of the success. And then they're not.
Right on.
There's so many variables and things that aren't accounted for that happen to make something successful. Yes, the producer has something to do with it for sure. It may be a lot, but not everything.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't mean like one person does this and it's a hit, and their next record's a hit. Whatever. It doesn't mean like, dude, this guy's or this lady's got it locked in. They know it's just a moment. They're going to capitalize on a moment. So I don't buy the whole like, dude, this producer just pumps out hits no matter what. You can put a piece of dog shit in front of them and it's going to be a hit,
Right.
Like,
the music's got to be good, right? I mean, that's a big, the big thing.
I guess, yeah. You know what? The cynic in me will say, no, it doesn't have to be good. There just has to be enough advertising behind it to pound it into people's heads.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
So, yeah, I don't know. And then I don't exclude ourselves from that. I know people go, well, that happens with you. Maybe it did. Maybe it did. I'm not even saying like, oh, our music is good, but
Right.
this is the bad music. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's a possibility that shit gets popular because there's a big machine that makes it gets popular.
Well, I think in 2025, the landscape is perfect for you guys. I mean, there's the as far as music output, it's on your terms. You can still do the weekend warrior thing and still be active. Like I think, Doug, we were saying before you even came on that they could be the most active, at least the perception, than ever. And I think a lot of it's like social media and things like that. But this landscape lends it perfect for a band like you guys.
What, I mean, are you saying hypothetically, it could be perceived as we are the most active as we've ever been?
No,
I
yeah, exactly.
Are you saying that is the perception right now?
For me, I'm not speaking for anyone else.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys, and it's probably the festivals. It's who you're touring with, who you're playing these festivals with. But from my perception, you guys are very front and center.
Cool.
There's a Hoobastank Renaissance, baby, and I'm here for it.
Cool. I guess that's cool, but that's just another thing that just I can't control how you see me. Like
yeah.
I haven't made an effort to go like, dude, we need to be seen like we're front and center. I don't. It's just happening as it is. So when we are perceived to you as not being front and center, I'll be doing the same thing.
That's good.
love
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good way to be. I appreciate that. Awesome.
This is so much fun. This is all time To be honest, we've done probably 120 interviews,
Maybe
and
more.
probably more. This was up there, Doug.
Yeah, really
You
good.
guys got to talk to more interesting people then, I guess. This doesn't seem like who are you fucking interviewing?
Well, at first it was our VJ DJ friends, and but yeah. So at this point, we've gotten some more folks, and we've had a lot of fun with you today. So we appreciate it.
Cool. Appreciate it. It was fun.
Thank you for listening to Podio Slave. We are at Podio Slave on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the places that you can find us on social media. Facebook, Podio Slave Podcast. YouTube, Podio Slave Podcast there. Email us at podioslavepodcast@gmail.com. And hey, if you want to become a supporter, click on the link at the bottom of the episode and give us $1, give us $5. It keeps the lights on, keeps us going. We really appreciate that stuff. Thank you.